Do you know what eternity feels like, Commander? The alien's voice slithered into my ears like an oil spill, both smooth and suffocating. Its 7 eyes gleamed like fractured glass in the dim, otherworldly glow of the battlefield. Because you will. I tightened my grip on the pulse rifle, the human instinct for defiance flaring inside me. We've lasted this long, haven't we? Maybe eternity isn't ready for us. The alien, a Xathen named Thr'yx, emitted a sound somewhere between a laugh and the scraping of metal. Its mandibles clicked as it leaned closer, its shadow consuming what little light was left in this part of the ruined battlefield. Bold. That's what I appreciate about your kind. Bold and doomed. Enough talking, I snapped, adjusting the communication implant nestled behind my ear. Why don't you focus on staying alive, Thr'yx? Or are you here to lecture me again about the honor of fighting for your gods? The alien's gaze shifted, scanning the horizon. The air shimmered with residual energy from the last skirmish. Jagged cliffs jutted out like broken teeth, and craters dotted the landscape like scars. Above us, the sky was a swirling maelstrom of crimson and violet, beautiful if it weren't so deadly. Thr'yx's claws flexed, tapping against the hilt of his blade, an ornate weapon that seemed alive with a faint, pulsating light. You misunderstand, human, Thr'yx replied, his tone oddly solemn. I do not fight for honor. I fight because it is the only way. I opened my mouth to respond, but the ground beneath us trembled violently, cutting me off. Both of us instinctively crouched low, weapons drawn. From the distance, a deafening roar erupted, followed by a cascade of explosions that painted the horizon with fire. The war was calling us back, as it always did. This war wasn't like the wars of Earth. No treaties, no ceasefires, no hope. When the aliens first arrived, humanity thought we were on the verge of annihilation. The Xathen descended in their massive, city-sized ships, bristling with weapons we couldn't comprehend. But instead of wiping us out, they offered us a choice. Join their war as soldiers, or watch Earth be obliterated. At first, it seemed like a mercy, a chance for survival. We didn't realize the cost. Mercy, I muttered under my breath as I ran toward the rendezvous point, my boots crunching against the charred ground. The word tasted bitter. Mercy didn't come with chains. Mercy didn't mean eternal conscription, fighting battles on alien worlds with no way back home. The Xathen called it the Eternal Accord. Humans called it a death sentence. Once we stepped onto the battlefield, we were trapped. The technology that transported us here only worked one way. And even if it didn't, the implants they embedded in our skulls ensured obedience. They claimed it was for coordination, to streamline the war effort. But we all knew the truth. No deserters, no rebels, just soldiers. By the time I reached the others, the battle had already begun. Plasma bolts and kinetic projectiles zipped through the air, illuminating the battlefield in flashes of neon chaos. The humans in my squad were huddled behind a fractured wall of alien architecture, their faces streaked with dirt and fear. Commander Mason, Private Ellis called out, his voice barely audible over the cacophony. They're pushing hard on the left flank. We're pinned. I slid into cover beside him, peering over the edge of the wall. The enemy, another alien race called the Thr'yx, were relentless, their insectoid forms swarming like locusts. Their weapons discharged beams of green energy that disintegrated anything they touched. How many? I asked, my voice steady despite the chaos. Too many, Ellis replied, his hands trembling as he reloaded his weapon. We're not gonna make it, sir. We'll make it, I said, more for his sake than mine. Where's Corporal Lin? Here, came a voice from my right. Lin emerged from a nearby trench, her armor scorched but intact. We've got reinforcements coming. Xathen squad. ETA 2 minutes. Great, I muttered. The Xathen were allies, technically, but they always treated us like expendable tools, and I wasn't in the mood for one of their lectures about how fortunate we were to serve their cause. Thr'yx arrived moments later, his blade already slick with some unholy ichor. Your squad is faltering, Commander, he observed, his tone almost amused. Perhaps I should lead. Perhaps you should save the commentary for after we survive this. I shot back. Lynn, focus fire on the left flank. Ellis, keep their heads down. Let's move. The battle raged on, a blur of violence and desperation. For every Thr'yx we took down, 2 more seemed to take its place. The Xathen reinforcements arrived, cutting through the enemy ranks with brutal efficiency, but even they couldn't turn the tide completely. By the time the fighting subsided, the battlefield was a wasteland. Bodies, human, Xathen, and Thr'yx alike, littered the ground. The air reeked of ozone and burnt flesh. I leaned against a shattered column, my body aching from exhaustion. Thr'yx stood nearby, his expression unreadable. "Another victory," he said, his voice devoid of triumph. "If you can call it that," I replied. "How many more, Thr'yx? How many more battles until this war ends?" The alien's 7 eyes fixed on me, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of something. Regret? Understanding? "You still don't understand, Commander," he said quietly. "This war doesn't end. It never ends." And deep down, I knew he was right. The days blurred into each other, each one marked by battles that felt more like survival drills than victories. The battlefield changed from planet to planet, but the war remained the same. Endless waves of Thr'yx, relentless and mindless, crashing against us like a tide that would never recede. Between skirmishes, I found myself drawn to Thr'yx. Not because I trusted him, I didn't, but because he seemed to know more about the true nature of this war than he let on. One night, or what passed for night on this forsaken world, I confronted him. "You knew this was a trap," I said, sitting across from him by the faint glow of a bioluminescent plant. "When your people came to Earth, you knew we'd never get out of this alive." Thr'yx didn't deny it. He simply stared at me with those unblinking eyes. "And yet, you chose to fight. You didn't give us much of a choice," I shot back. "Join or die. Some choice. All beings face the same choice in the end," he said. "Survive or perish. The eternal accord ensures survival, even if it is inconvenient." "Inconvenient?" I laughed bitterly. "That's one way to put it." "You misunderstand," he said, leaning forward. "The Thr'yx are not just our enemies. They are the end of all things. If they consume this galaxy, they will not stop. Not until every star is extinguished, every world devoured. We fight not for honor, or even survival. We fight to delay the inevitable." The weight of his words settled over me like a shroud. "Delay?" Thr'yx nodded. "There is no victory in this war, Commander. Only time. And time is running out." I didn't want to believe him, but as the days turned to weeks, his words echoed in every battle, every loss. The Thr'yx were unending, their forces replenished by some horrific means we couldn't fully comprehend. And as much as I hated to admit it, Thr'yx was right. This wasn't a war we could win. It was a war we endured. One day, during a rare moment of respite, I gathered my squad. Lynn, Ellis, and the others sat in a loose circle, their faces weary but attentive. Thr'yx lingered nearby, silent as ever, his presence a constant reminder of our grim reality. I looked at each of them in turn, their eyes reflecting a mixture of fatigue and fragile determination. "This can't go on forever," I said, breaking the silence. "We've all seen it. The war, the way it consumes us. Every battle, every death. It feels like we're just feeding the machine." Ellis frowned, his voice laced with fear. "Are you saying we should stop fighting? Because if we do—" "I'm not saying we stop," I interrupted. "But we need to think beyond just surviving the next skirmish. If this is really endless, if the Thr'yx are as unstoppable as Thr'yx says, then we need to find another way." Lynn leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Another way? Like what? Running? We can't even leave this hellhole, let alone escape the war." "Not running," I said. "Winning. Or at least, breaking the cycle. There has to be something we're not seeing. Something the Xathen aren't telling us." Thr'yx, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "You tread dangerous ground, Commander. The eternal accord exists because all other paths lead to ruin. To defy it is to invite annihilation." "Maybe," I said, meeting his gaze. "Or maybe it's just another trap." A way to keep us all too busy dying to question who's pulling the strings. The alien's mandibles twitched, but he didn't respond. That in itself was telling. Over the next few weeks, I began to probe deeper into the Xathen's technology and their reasons for the Eternal Accord. It wasn't easy. Information was tightly controlled, and any questions were met with vague platitudes about duty and survival. But small cracks began to show. Fragments of intercepted communications hinted at something deeper, something the Xathen feared as much as the Thr'yx. Lynn, ever resourceful, managed to hack into a Xathen data relay. What she uncovered was chilling. A massive structure, hidden deep within a dying star system, surrounded by defensive arrays unlike anything we'd ever seen. They call it the Crucible, Lynn said, her voice barely above a whisper. From what I can piece together, it's some kind of weapon. Or maybe a power source. The data's fragmented, but the Xathen are terrified of it falling into Thr'yx hands. Or human hands, I said. The realization hit me like a gut punch. That's why they keep us fighting. They don't just need soldiers. They need us distracted. Controlled. Ellis looked between us, his face pale. So what do we do? If we go after this thing, the Xathen will come after us. And if the Thr'yx get it first, then we make sure neither of them do, I said. The words felt insane as I said them, but they also felt right. We find the Crucible, figure out what it really is, and end this war. One way or another. Thr'yx, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. You are meddling in forces you cannot comprehend, Commander. The Crucible is not a solution. It is a door. One that should remain closed. Then why keep it a secret? I shot back. If it's so dangerous, why not destroy it? Unless, I trailed off, the pieces clicking into place. Unless it's not just a door. It's a key, isn't it? The Xathen silence was all the confirmation I needed. The journey to the Crucible was perilous. We had to evade both Thr'yx patrols and Xathen oversight, relying on stolen coordinates and sheer luck. The closer we got, the more the tension grew. Even Thr'yx, usually so composed, seemed on edge. When we finally reached the system, the sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Crucible hung in the void, a massive, crystalline structure radiating an eerie, pulsating light. Surrounding it were the ruins of an ancient fleet, their twisted forms a testament to a battle long forgotten. Lynn's voice crackled over the comms. Defensive systems are active. If we get too close, we're toast. Then we find a way in, I said. There has to be a weak point. As we navigated the debris field, the truth of the Crucible began to reveal itself. It wasn't just a weapon or a power source. It was alive, or something close to it. And it was calling out, not just to us, but to the Thr'yx, to the Xathen, to anyone who would listen. Thr'yx's voice was a low growl. You have no idea what you're awakening, Commander. Maybe not, I admitted. But it's better than fighting the same battle for eternity. With that, we breached the Crucible's outer shell, stepping into a realm that defied understanding. The walls shimmered with shifting patterns, and the air hummed with a strange, resonant energy. At the center of it all was a core, a swirling vortex of light and shadow that seemed to pulse in time with my heartbeat. This is it, Lynn said, her voice filled with awe. This is what they've been hiding. Ellis took a step closer, his weapon raised. What do we do now? I didn't have an answer, but as I reached out, the Crucible responded, its energy surging toward me. Images flooded my mind, of worlds consumed, of stars extinguished, of a war that spanned not just galaxies but dimensions. And then I understood. The Crucible wasn't just a key. It was a choice. An end to the war, but at a cost I could barely comprehend. Thr'yx's voice cut through the chaos. You see now, don't you? The price of victory. I turned to face him, my resolve hardening. It's a price we have to pay. With a deep breath, I made my choice. And as the Crucible's light enveloped us, I couldn't help but wonder if eternity would remember what we had done.